give continuation today to the work, to the studies of the Spirit's book. We are dealing with the moral laws. We just completed the law of reproduction. And today we start in chapter 5, the law of preservation. A lot of the topics that we're going to see today here, we had seen it in other topics in this book already when we did with this intelligence and instinct in the past. And some even with the previous studies that we did, the law of reproduction, we covered some of those topics here already. But now Kardec put a different angle on those topics in the law of preservation. Philip?
Yes.
Thank you.
702. Is the instinct of self-preservation a law of nature? Of course. Regardless of intelligence, it is given to all living creatures. In some, it is purely mechanical, while in others, it is associated with reason.
So when we're talking about instinct of self-preservation, we're talking about preservation of the physical body, of the physical instrument. Because the spirit is eternal. The spirit, you can try as hard as we can, but we're not going to kill ourselves, even if you want to, right? The spirit is eternal. So when we're talking about self-preservation, we're talking about the physical body, okay? And instinct is something that is relevant for our physical life, us here now. So much so that as the answer tells, he is given to all living creatures. So from a cockroach to a mouse to a whale to human beings, we all animals, we all have this, not only animals, I'm sorry, even plants have an instinct of self-preservation, okay? Even a bacteria has an instinct of self-preservation, okay? It's given to all living things. But why? What do we want that for, right? We're going to see that in the next question. In some, it's purely mechanical. A snake has the instinct of self-preservation, of survivor, purely mechanical, purely instinctive. By the time that snake hatched out of that egg, it knows everything that you ever learned. And you have that instinct of survival, perhaps even superior than ours. And we'll see why soon, okay? To us, you have the mechanical instinct survival. I can give a short case over here. Just recently came back from a trip from the Smoky Mountains where, as we know, it's loaded with black bears. And we go into the park and we get a little lecture, you know, if a bear approaches you or if you're doing the trails or you're doing trails and make a curve and boom, there's a bear right in front of you, what are you gonna do, right? They go through the leg and they tell everything what to do and this and that. My wife and I were up in the mountain at night, look at the stars. My wife is always look at the stars. The one she have at home is not enough, I guess. And as soon as she turned, there was a black bear. And all the lecturers from the garden there went away. She just ran, a bear, did everything they was not supposed to do. Luckily, I think the bear, I didn't see the bear. The bear was more afraid than her than she was of the, and nothing happened. She acted purely instinctive. Completely denied reasoning at that moment, right? Because it's very strong within us, okay? you are swimming in the current in the ocean, the current start to take you, you may lose your reasoning. You know what you're supposed to do. Just let it take you. Don't fight because you're never gonna win. But you fight and you fight and you fight until you get too tired, and you drown. Is the instinct in this case against working against you, basically. Yeah, right? Because human has reason, human has intelligence. So that's why I say perhaps the survival instinct of a snake is even greater than ours, because that's the only thing they have. We have the intelligence, and intelligence should overpower instinct. And unfortunately, that's why people commit suicide, because they are able to reason above the instinct of self-preservation and commit that serious mistake, right? So in some, it's purely mechanical. Snake, sardine, will be purely mechanical, right? While in others associated with the reason. And I don't know if others here is limited to humans. I was thinking of this. Others, does it include perhaps the higher primates, perhaps? Does it include an orangutan that's extremely intelligent? I don't know. But definitely for humans, we have to associate this instinct with reason. And sometimes you must allow reason to overpower instinct in order to survive, as this swimming case that I just gave. It is powerful. It's very strong. Secret Service, these people were trying to protect the president, let's say, right? I mean, when the bullet is coming in, instead of run, they try to cover the president. They'll take a bullet for the president. They have, they have to overpower an instinct of survival, and they are trained for that. We are creatures of habits. If I ask you how do you go home, you're gonna tell them that you go home the same way all the time. You cross, even the way you cross the street usually is gonna be the same area. The Secret Service are trained not to do that. They have to go home different ways, just to break that powerful instinct that make us do repeated things. So it's such a powerful thing that we have that even makes us commit some mistakes sometimes. We human. A snake is not gonna make a mistake, right? And of course, there has to be a cause, but more than a cause, there has to be a purpose. You know, the three questions that we should always be asked is why, how, and what for. Everything should have a purpose. Now, what is the purpose of have such a strong instinct? And again, instinct relates to our physical life. A spirit does not need instinct, because instinct of preservation, because spirit doesn't die. You don't have to worry about that. Okay? Any questions, comment? Okay, 703.
Why has God given the instinct of self-preservation to all living creatures? God has given them the desire to live, to carry out the designs of providence. Furthermore, life is necessary for the improvement of beings. All living beings feel it instinctively without understanding it.
Life is not easy. Life requires effort. Life requires sacrifices. Find food sometimes is a challenge. You know, running away from big cat who's trying to eat you requires effort. You really have to try hard and not become lunch for them, right? If we didn't have a strong instinct of preservation, why you try so hard? The lion's gonna come and eat them. Eventually it's gonna get me anyway, man. Well, get me now, game's over, and that's it. The gazelle doesn't do that, you know, no one does that, okay, because we have this very strong instinct that wants us to live another day. See individuals is suffer all kinds of medical conditions, had an amputation, is blind, is in hemodialysis 3 days a week, and less than one. And I know, I keep going. Why? There's a strong drive to live as long as we can. This thing allow us to have that, try to preserve life as much as we want. But why? But what for? I'm sorry. The question is what for, is not why. So you can carry out the designs of providence. And the ultimate design of providence is provide all the necessary tools for our moral and intellectual progress. If one time we were at a state of intelligent principle, being associated still with minerals and then with vegetables and then with the animal, when going this path of progress, and we reach the level of individualized intelligent principle or a spirit, that's not the end of the journey. We have a long way to go. We will become the Christs or completely pure spirit. Progress happens, at least at our level, while incarnate, but associating this physical world. We learn everywhere. We can learn the spiritual world, and you read the books of other means, you see that spirits over there are studying very hard, that they're learning everything. But in order to really progress, in order to transform all that you have learned there and here, you need to apply it here. You got to come here and deal with the struggles of here in order to consummate that knowledge, transform that knowledge into progress. So we need to be here, and we have to be here as long as possible to progress as much as possible, to learn and apply all that we learn, creating progress as much as possible. Because divine providence has this plan for us. From the atom to the archangel, right? Created simple and ignorant, predestined to reach spiritual perfection or spiritual purity. That's divine providence. That's what God wants from us. You don't like the idea? Go talk to him. God is perfect. His laws are perfect. You better accept that's what it is. And again, without having something that try to hold us here as long as possible, can progress as much as possible, would be very hard. Because again, the challenges are so immense for us to be here, living our lives, that if we didn't have something very strong to hold us here, it would be very useless to give up. Especially if you understand reincarnation. These incarnations, it's not good and not enjoy this. I'm just gonna let death come, and hopefully the next one I'll have a better luck, I'll have a better life. Which of course is going to be harder if you have this state of mind. You're going to have with much greater challenges yet, right? So it's necessary for the species to progress, to evolve, right? To go from the state for the intelligent principle to go from the state of the mineral to the vegetable, and the vegetable to the lower animals or the higher animals, and become individualized intelligent principle. We need to come here, we need to be associated with matter. And it's necessary for the spirit to progress. We need a physical body. And if this physical body does not let us to stay here as long as we need to fulfill our plan, we are going to be short in our progress. So the what for, this instinct is to allow us to be here as long as possible, providing us as much time as possible to progress as much as we can. God does not put limit on how much can progress. So you can only go from level A to level 8.1. No, if you can finish from A to Z, go from A to Z. Likely, most of us, if we do good work, we'll from 8.1. It's good enough, right? But we want to go as much as we can in that scale of progress. And for that, the longer we stay here, the greater is the probability, the potential of us to go from 8.1, 8.1 and a half, 8.1 and 3/4, hopefully 8.2. Now would be a lot already for most of us. Okay?
Means of self-preservation.
Being to self-preservation, yes.
704. In giving humans the desire to live, has God always provided them with the means of doing so? Yes. And if they do not always find the means, is because they do not understand them. God would not instill the love of life in humankind without giving them the means to live. And God has created earth so that it is able to produce sufficient means for all its inhabitants. Only that which is necessary is useful, while superfluous are never useful.
God is all perfection. God is absolutely justice. It is not imaginable that God would give us this very strong instinct of self-preservation without providing the means to self-preserve ourselves, right? So if God wants us to be here as much as possible, God provides us the necessary tools to stay here as long as possible. We're gonna die. Everything that is non-spirit, it will eventually die. Even the greatest, even the Everest, one day we'll go and be little pebble of sands in a beach somewhere, right? How many million years can it take? I don't know. But God provides. And if you go back to Jesus, God to Jeremiah's, and it'll be more like the birds in the field and the lily, they don't ask and they receive. God provides, right? Provide to the birds, provide to the lilies in the valley, yes. If one of us does not have the necessary for our survivor, there is something wrong. And it's not with God. Something wrong with us. I remember one case, man, many years was a kid still, was two clerical persons. They died of hunger, of starvation in the Amazon forest. And I remember, I was still a kid, my father died, this is their fault. And how can you die of starvation in the Amazon forest? If there's a place that is no lack of food, would be the Amazon forest, right? So they didn't know what was around them. There was good food in terms of vegetables, in terms of a frog, in terms of find a way to catch a fish. I mean, you go away to the Amazon forest. I remember this case very well because I got mad at my father. Oh, God, it's the truth. It's the reality. You go in the jungle and you don't know, have a minimal survival skills. You should not be there. As simple as that. You cannot fault God, nor the Amazon forest, but only the individuals who are completely unprepared, completely ignorant, with abundance of food around them to die of starvation. So there is a problem. The problem is not with God. It's not with divine providence. And divine providence gives us the instinct to survive, gave us intelligence enough. I'm not going to get inside there without knowing what is awaiting for me there. If something happens, how do I survive out there? Right? That is using what God gave us, intelligence. If you don't use the tools, then you may succumb to your own ignorance. But divine providence always does. That's what the answer says here. Yes. And if they not always find the means, is because they do not understand them. If you die of hunger in the Amazon forest, it's because you didn't understand the means to get to food, right? You can tell, we're gonna go back here, and I'm sure people ask, oh, but there are people starving, that is not their fault. Yes, indeed. Indeed, there is this case, and Kardec, we're gonna cover that. Okay, but to imagine that God would put us in the field to play the game without giving us the rules of the game, and the necessary tools to play the game, is completely rational. Right? The divine providence, the absolute perfection, will teach us before we get in there. That's the rules of the game, and that's a necessary tool for you to play that game. Right? Any questions?
Elmo, I see here that for some reason humankind are sort of lazy to go around and search. The case of the priests. Come on. Go around and find a fruit that you know, which will be plenty, fish will be plenty. But anyway, I think we have a tendency for some reason that I don't know where it came from, to sit down and wait for the means to come to us. Then we blame God because we are having necessities that are not being attended. Because I'm sitting down and waiting for my whatever. I don't know.
It's absolute laziness. It's a complete disregard to the tools that God provides to us. Intelligence, and even the curiosity, even try to fulfill some curiosities, to put intelligence to work. Let's suppose that one of us here, the boss just come to you and say, in 6 months, you are going to work for me for a year in a small town in the Himalayas that is like 6,000 feet up in the air, where the wind blows at 100 miles per hour constantly. That's the normal. Would you check out how to survive in that place before you get there? You can quit your job and I'm not going there. But if you go, the salary is good, the money is good. Would you not check before? How do they dress over there? What do they eat over there? What is the means of treatment if I get sick? Is there any health care provider around this place? How do I get there? Do I have to walk up this 6,000 meters up? What is the means of transportation? You gotta do your homework before you get there.
We do that if we travel upstate, we check that.
Right?
We check the weather, we check everything.
And what is that? That is using your intelligence. You use the tools available for you to provide you the best probability of survival, because otherwise you're gonna get over there and you're not gonna last. If you don't know. Unless you are those privileged person who can just sit down and wait for somebody to do things for you, but you're not taking that into consideration here. We're talking about us doing our homework and doing our thing to survive. Right? So it's divine providence provides to us, and we have this wonderful, beautiful tool that is reason. Continual reason. Some other animals have some degree of intelligence, but we have intelligence that is so superior than any other animal, and it is a continuous thought that if you use it properly in association with the divine laws imprinted in our conscience, this world will be a wonderful place to be.
So like the snake that you said, they're mechanics. They can't like learn new things, or it's just that's what they do.
That's what they do. It's,
So they can't learn, they can't evolve, they can't.
no, they are evolving.
Snakes
The,
have been like that for
the individual, the intelligent principle that is associated that snake is involved. The snake is gonna continue to be the snake. Okay? But the snake does not have a brain that is eloquent enough that allows learning. So all their action is purely instinctive. They'll put the tongue up in the air, smell the air, and figure out your size just by the heat, by your body heat. They can say, no, this guy is too big for me, and I can't swallow this whole thing. So go look for something they can swallow. It's all instinctive. It's all instinctive, and they have their intelligence instinctive. You know, they measure, you know, they measure mouse by the heat of the mouse. That is good lunch. They see a gazelle, no, gazelle's too big for me, I can't handle that. Otherwise, I'm gonna choke and I'm gonna die. And they will not gonna eat a gazelle. God provide them the instinct. You don't have that. We have to reason. We have to reason those things. Right? God they give wings to birds, but we have to figure out a way to create airplanes and not to fly. Okay. But everything is moving in a pattern of progress. The intelligent principle associated that is also going to move up. You're going to lose whatever lesson he needs to learn at that stage and move on to the next stage. All right, Philip, 705.
Why is it that the earth does not always produce enough to provide the human race with what is necessary to live? Because human beings are ungrateful and neglect to make fruitful use of earth's bounty. Nevertheless, she is an excellent mother. They often accuse nature of what is truly the direct consequence of their own nearsightedness. If human beings could simply be content with what is necessary, the earth would always provide it. If it does not provide for all their wants, it is because humanity use Earth's resources to supply luxuries when they should be setting them aside to supply necessities instead. Look at the example of the Arabs in the desert. They, and I can't see the rest.
Sorry. Yeah.
They always find enough to survive because they do not create artificial needs. When half of the Earth's products are squandered in gratifying impulsive wishes and demands, should humans be astonished when they run out and do not have any reason to complain if they are poorly equipped when scarcity strikes? I repeat, nature is not careless, but humans do not know how to control their use of her bounty.
Wow.
I think it was a very important and eloquent answer for something very common. I mentioned something very important. The previous question, in the very last sentence of the answer, is only that which necessary is useful, while superfluous are never useful. Because this sentence matches the answer of the Spirit's here. And the question is, why is that Earth does not always produce enough to provide the human race with what is necessary to live? This answer already contradicts the previous answer from the Spirit, because the Spirit already said, no, nature provides. God would not ask from us to go the long run without providing the means to go that long run. But we see that indeed, from time to time, it seems like there is lack of what is necessary. But when we see that in other lands, there is, in other parts, there is a tremendous amount of the superfluous. So what is necessary for us is necessary for us. What is superfluous here is not good anymore, but what's superfluous here is necessary somewhere else. So now it is a problem of basically selfishness of the human race. Like Earth provides. With our intelligence, we increase the production of what is necessary in accordance to our necessity. And the necessity, we are mostly talking about for survival of the physical body in terms of food, shelter, protection from the environment, housing and those kinds of things, but primarily food, shelter, right? Protection from the environments, because if you live where the wind blows at 100 miles per hour constantly, you need very proper kind of clothing to survive those places, because we don't have thick leather with thick fur like the animals there have, right? But we have means to create what we need. And we do. And we do so well that we create more than what we need. Then it becomes a superfluous. And the superfluous for us is not useful. But somewhere else, it is. If you think, let's say, individuals who live in the Arctics, it's very hard to grow plantation vegetation on an ice field. It's not going to grow too well, right? They have to survive basically out of animals, right? Most of the survivors animals. But with means of they have today of transportation, they can have apples, they can have rice and beans, and there is an excess, a superfluous of apple in New York State this time of the year. The farmers over there, they don't know what to do with all that apple, right? And apple doesn't grow well in the Arctic, North Alaska. We have means to bring it over there. But if the cost to get it over there is high, nobody will do it. Oh, I'm very, no, you can't have it. You can take my apples and just get your stuff. Don't ask me to participate in the cost to get it out there. But if everybody participates in the cost to get it out there, we'll do it. Let's say that it's okay if everybody pays whatever the cost of the apple, the cup is $1, just make sense. If everybody pays instead of $1.10 for the apple, which each one of those 10 cents, we can get apple for the people in Alaska. Would have people say, no, I'm not gonna pay 10 cents. They don't need apple. No, they can eat their own bears over there, forget it. Selfishness of ours. Because if everybody participate, and then it becomes our responsibility here. Because we could get apple to the people in Alaska. We just have to contribute a little bit from us. Not to double the price of them. No, we're gonna pay 10 cents more. And just you're gonna suggest, and I get an example here, how we are responsible for what is superfluous here for us, not reaching those who need. And once we have that understanding, we become responsible. We're completely ignorant. And that's the problem with this doctrine. We know a lot, which makes us responsible for a lot. Because those who doesn't know anything, they're not as much responsible. They are perhaps responsible for not knowing what they should know. But we know. So it makes all of us responsible, right? Because human beings are ungrateful and neglect to make fruitful use of Earth's bounty. Earth's bounty here refers to everything that the planet provides, those, that question. Because we may think that comes from the soil, Earth as the soil here, right? No. Plants and things that comes from Earth, perhaps even minerals. But no, it refers to everything that nature provides, basically. That includes fish and everything else. We are grateful. If you respect this planet a little bit more, if you respect this idea that if I have too much of a certain thing, that means that somebody else is lacking that thing. Because the resource on the planet is somewhat limited in the sense that it's an atmosphere, it's closed. Okay, it's not a thing that coming here in abundance. No, there is a limit to everything. And God provides for the whole population. But some are able to provide more than others. It becomes the responsibility of the strong to provide to the weak. It becomes the responsibility of the smart to teach the ignorant. It becomes the responsibility of those who have accesses to eliminate the excess by providing those who have less. If you have done that, then you would say that the problem is not Earth, the problem is not the providence, the problem is us, because we are selfish. The problem of selfishness there.
Yeah, Mo, I was reading an article another day. Okay, it was an article online. I cannot guarantee the veracity or the truth of the article, but around 1900, we were around 2 billion people in the planet. In the year 2000, we were 8 billion. So some specialists were worried if with this growth of population, we'll have lack of food. But I cannot say that we did not have, because again, the distribution is the problem, but we were able to use our own intelligence to find a way to increase the production with machinery, okay, it's not good, but pesticides or genetic modification of fruits and vegetables that can grow stronger and
Pest resistant.
pest resistant and increase the number of fruits per tree. And so we have the means of doing that. And it's still some places in the earth, we still have problems of hunger because the place that produce way too much cannot send over there in a reasonable price, because usually what I see, that's my personal opinion, those places that people have a higher number of starving citizens, and usually the poor countries, so they cannot afford the shipping because of our own selfishness, because we want to make a profit of something that we're gonna throw away. We have to make a profit. Everything's money, 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 material things, and then that drives me crazy. Sorry, but
Yeah, but that's exactly what we're talking about here. We need to be careful. I was thinking about it. The problem is on a very big scale. The solution has to come of very high authorities to resolve this problem. Let's say that I'm a farmer, I have a monoculture and whatever, rice or the wheat or the soybeans, okay? And When it's time to prepare the land, I go to the bank and I borrow the necessary amount of money. I rent the machinery that is required to do that. Um, and I have a project in calculation that this year gonna produce X amount. With this X amount, I'll give it back to the bank. I will pay for all the machines, and I'll pay for all the fertilizer that I need, everything else, and expect to have Y amount of profit. With this amount of profit, I'm gonna pay my mortgage, gonna put the kids to college, gonna do that and that. So that farmer is conditioned to the price of the product, the monoculture that he produces. He needs to take care of himself in a sense, and he has to pay the bank. The bank is not gonna give him a break. I don't care what the price went down, you didn't calculate it right, or whatever, or the tariff is now nobody's gonna buy your soy because of the tariff, is whatever it is. The bank wants the money back. The kids need to go to school. And the school is not gonna say, oh, you have a problem, you don't have to pay for the school, the kids this year. No, they're still gonna have to pay. So the problem is very, very hard to resolve, right? Because the farmer, he may have all the good intentions, but he also has to pay the bank, he has to pay for the machinery, he has to put kids to school, he has to pay whatever he has. And he's making a calculation on the price of that thing, and now he needs to find a way to get at least not to lose, at least to get even. And so the problem is very, very complex. Okay. Ideally, they say they all need to take responsibility for that. That's why I say, no, let each one of us, instead of pay $1 for one, not gonna pay $1.10. And resolve the problem, get a read all the excess up there you have here and deliver that apple where it's needed. Because it's us, we take care of it, we resolved it. But other things is very complex. Look what's happening in Gaza. If somebody gets, I'm sorry, but for a long time, there is a starvation out of Gaza, it's just because a military system prevented food to get in there. All you need to do is open the roads and allow food to get there. That's all you have to do. You don't need to help them to do anything. Just open the roads and let food get to people who are hungry. But because of our selfishness, okay, you say, I have this goal they want to reach, and I don't care if people die. I don't care if families are being destroyed. Unless I get what I want, no food gonna reach those people who are hungry. And I'm using this as an example because we are living this right now. Okay, but it could be any other situation. Okay, we are responsible for that. We need to have an elevation of our moral values that is say, yeah, I'm gonna reach my objective, but I cannot let kids dying of starvation on my account. It's a moral responsibility you have to take. But for as long as we put power, conquest of territory above moral values, this is going to continue to happen. You're gonna have to throw apples away because there is no way to get the apples where people would use them. And we have an excess, and what's excess is not useful. It's just not useful. You can, just use apple as an example, make the cider, you make beer, you make whatever, it still has a bunch of apples over there because we produce a lot, because with our intelligence, we develop means of producing a lot. We almost over here, just checking the time. Recently, I forgot the year there was one that there was like the bees disappeared. There was a lack of bees. And in China is a large producer of oranges. And the bees just disappeared from that area. They produce tremendous amounts of oranges. And without bees, no pollination, no bees, no oranges, basically, right? And the flowers out there, but there was no bees to get pollen from one flower to another, pollination, and that stuff, the botanics that we know in order to produce fruit. The Chinese decide, listen, we have an excess of workers over here, workers cheap. We can pay everybody, let's try something here, see if it works. So they put people to go on top of the orange trees with little tiny pincers, and you go pinch one flower here, to another flower here, to another flower. So it's like what happens. We're gonna lose this anyway, right? The result. They didn't expect much, at least to come even. The result is that they produce, we thought they got 3 times as much they usually produce when the bees are around. They produce 3 times more. Because the bees, they are not concerned in pollination. They want to get the what they need to produce. It's a side effect, so to say. The bees go over there to do their bees, they don't care about the orange. Right? Because we human, we care about the orange. We create a system that was specifically done to produce oranges. And they will carefully produce as much pollen from one flower to another, from one flower to another, from one flower to another. So in the field, as you drive a car, you see there's orange fields like this, and a bunch of Chinese guys, that little thing. And they produce this much, 3 times more. Why are you saying that? Because we have this. We have that intelligence. We always be able to resolve our problems. We always find a way to supply our necessities. And so damn good that will be an excess. And when it becomes an excess, it becomes not useful anymore. And then it have to have means of proper distribution. Because maybe someone else, they didn't have that good idea that Chinese had. And they had no orange that time. They had excess. We produced 3 times as much. We expect to produce 1,000, we got 3,000. We're gonna keep my 1,000. You can have 1,000, that one can have 1,000, and everybody's happy. But our selfishness, and unfortunately the governments that govern all these things does not help much, or when they help, they're not respected. And that is all come to moral. It's all come to moral. It's not intellectual. Intellectual, you won't have it. Let's do one more question. It's 53.
706.
Yeah, this hold on. Let me bring it up for you. This thing sometimes stops. Yeah, thanks.
Should we understand the fruits of the earth to mean the products of the soil? The soil is the fundamental source of all other products, which are only transformed versions of the products of the soil. As such, the term fruits of the earth should be understood to mean anything that humans beings enjoy in their physical lives.
Anything that human beings enjoy in their physical life, that is the fruits of earth. We eat fish, we enjoy fish, right? I love scallops. You can have a plantation of scallops. I wish it could. It'd be nice. Have a tree of scallops. And have the Chinese Polynesian scallops. Unfortunately, you need to go to the sea. You have to find means to explore the ocean with responsibility and not destroy as much as are destroying because of scallops as well. But everything that the nature provides to us, we can understand as fruits of earth. And it is our responsibility to explore the fruits of earth with responsibilities. So not only we can profit from it now, but our 7 generations around us can do the same. And then we'll make sure that they will explore, making sure that 7 generations around them will be able to explore the same way, and then it can perpetuate the fruit of earth. And in order to do that, we're going to have to align our intellectual with our moral. We're going to have to use our intelligence in association with divine laws imprinted in our conscience. Because everybody who is right now misusing this planet and misusing the fruit of earth in their conscience, they know exactly what they're doing. And then they're not in peace with themselves. Because the judge called conscience does not give us a break. We choose to do out of selfishness, out of this desire for the illusion of power, being monetary power or any other kind of power, but you acquire tremendous amount of responsibilities and debits, and our conscience will be begging in our head that you will start making reparations of the mistakes that we are making. I think I'm going to stop here. It's 4 minutes to close. Is there any question, any comments? No. So Carol, can you make our final prayer, please?
Oh, certainly. Thank you very much, Elmo. Thank you for hosting for us tonight, and for Philip for reading for us tonight, and everyone who is here participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Spirit's book. Book 3, Chapter 5, The Law of Preservation. The Spirit is eternal, and the physical body has the instinct of self-preservation in all living creatures. Humans have intelligence and reasoning, which can overpower instinct. Also, it can be trained. Self-preservation is part of God's design for our improvement and progress, from the atom to the archangel. Divine providence provides all the means for our survival on earth. Humans need intelligence and resourcefulness as tools to be used wisely to ensure progress. May we be good stewards of the earth, and may we bless the fruits there within. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us. Excuse me. And for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritual centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we remind ourselves and go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.